Guggenheim. It is my great honor today that in addition to introducing Bill, I'm also inducting him into the Spiritual Awakenings International Circle of Honor. And if you don't know what our Circle of Honor is, it's like a Hall of Fame, and is where we at Spiritual Awakenings International are honoring and recognizing people who have been groundbreakers and pioneers in the area of spiritually transformative experiences in the last 100 years. So today it is my great privilege to honor Bill Guggenheim as we induct him into the Spiritual Awakenings International Circle of Honor for his groundbreaking work on after-death communications. So let me tell you a little bit about Bill. Bill Guggenheim coined the phrase after-death communications with his wife, Judy Guggenheim. He is often known as the father of ADC research. ADC is a short form for after-death communications. He's written and spoken on the subject for more than 30 years. He says that during his first 35 years of his life, he was an agnostic, and he was not interested in spiritual matters. He worked as a stockbroker and a securities analyst on Wall Street. Then in May of 1974, that changed when Bill experienced a spiritual awakening that would shape the rest of his life. He started receiving messages from the other side, short stories, philosophy, parables, and poetry, all of which affirmed that life continues after death. So back in 1988, Bill and his wife, Judy, founded the ADC project, the After Death Communication Project, to conduct the first in-depth research study on after-death communications. They conducted 7 years of research, interviewed 2,000 people, collected more than 3,300 firsthand accounts from people who believed that they had been contacted by a family member or a friend who had died. Then in 1995, Bill and Judy published their book that came out of this research, Hello from Heaven. Then Bantam Books published the book in 1996, and this became a bestseller. It was the first ever book published on the topic of after-death communications. Bill has been presenting now on after-death communication workshops at conferences, bereavement support groups, hospices, churches, colleges, bookstores, and many other institutions. And he's appeared on many TV shows, podcasts, including 2020, Coast to Coast AM radio, and he's been featured in many newspaper and magazine articles. And his book, his groundbreaking book, Hello from Heaven, has been published in 18 foreign editions. So would you all join me now for a round of applause to congratulate Bill Guggenheim on his induction into the Spiritual Awakenings International Circle of Honor. Congratulations, Bill, and thank you for your groundbreaking work. So I'm going to get off the screen now, and I'm going to turn it off over to you.
Thank you very, very much. I feel very honored to be included in the Circle of Honor of SAI, first of all. And this is frankly the first honor for the whole field of after-death communication that I'm aware of. So it's a very, very special thing. I'm not thinking of it about me, but for the field of research and all the people who've contributed to it and those who've benefited from it as much as anything. And I'm also very pleased personally to be on the same program, if obviously not the same time period, as Bruce Grayson, because he's been one of my heroes, so to speak, in the field of near-death experience research. And IANS is my spiritual family and has been since 1977 when I met John Audette and later Raymond Moody and Chen Ring and Bruce Grayson and other people. I saw so many familiar faces last night, or yesterday, I should say. But I think I need to start with what is an ADC, so we have some idea what we're talking about. An after-death communication, or ADC, is a spiritual experience that occurs when a person is contacted directly and spontaneously by a family member or a friend who has died. In other words, somebody they've known. An ADC is a direct experience because there are no third parties involved. There are no psychics, mediums, therapists, devices, rituals, or whatever. It's just you and the one who died coming to you. You can ask for them to happen, but you can't make them happen. And they're a spontaneous event because our deceased loved one, whoever he or she is, choose when, where, and how to contact us. We may want it to happen. It's human, it's natural, it's normal. People are desperate in wanting their child to come back, for instance. And prayer is helpful, asking a higher power, your child, the universe, God, Mary, Jesus, whatever you believe in, other faiths, to have that person come to you. But that doesn't mean that they will. There are many reasons that they may or may not. I won't go into all that, of course. We believe that based upon our research here in America, where we interviewed 2,000 people and whatnot, that at least 60 million Americans have had one or more of these experiences. And another poll, which has made it 40% of the population, or 125 million Americans, have had one or more ADCs. And so they're very frequent. And I suspect they're even higher, but a lot of people don't share them or don't recognize them, things of that nature. We found that there were 12 types of experiences that people have. I'll go through these briefly. I've asked them to post my mailing address, my email address here on the website. So I can, if you want this, you can email me and I will email it back to you as a document, which you can download and have on printed paper. So it's a 4-page presentation, which I've used for all these years. So anyway, the most common thing is sensing or feeling a presence. You just know your deceased loved one is near you. Some people can point to the area of the room. Some people say it's warmer or colder there. I don't think they're just coming to hang out. Gradually, I've come to believe that they want to communicate, and they're there to communicate verbally with you. So if you feel the nearness, the presence of a loved one who has died, please, not while you're driving a car, but or whatever, but when you're safe, sit down, close your eyes, open your mind, open your heart, and ask to receive a message. That's the fastest, easiest way to get one. And some people will hear a voice, such as you're hearing mine. More typically, it's by telepathy. They receive words in their brain, in their head, and it's one-way or two-way communication. And it can go on and on and on. That's the next category. And by the way, as I explain these categories, I can only do so as making them separate, but these can occur in unison. In other words, you can see, smell, taste, hear, all these together at the same time, just like if the person's physically right there with you, but I can only explain them in segments. So you may hear a voice as you're hearing mine, but more typically it's by telepathy. And some people learn how to have two-way ongoing communication by telepathy. Very briefly, a woman I knew, she and her husband used to operate a business together. He died. She didn't know how to do it alone. They had evening meetings nightly, and he instructed her, and the business kept going, and she was still prosperous several years later. So that's a number of years ago. So you can have ongoing conversations and learn. You can actually write things down in the called channeled writings and take messages and whatever, if you really develop a rapport. There's a book by Annie Kagan about her brother. How I learned to live with the afterlife of Billy Fingers. The afterlife of Billy Fingers, and that whole book is communication that she had with her brother who died. An unusual book. Feeling a touch. Some people feel a pat, a tap, a caress, a touch of the hair, arm around the shoulders or their waist, or a kiss or a hug. And these are all tactile experiences. But you'll only recognize that if it's with someone you were very close to emotionally. Obviously, a stranger, I mean, not a stranger, but say an aunt or something, would not be as close as, say, a child or a husband or a wife, where you'd recognize their touch. These are all forms of affection, nurturing, and love. All these, I believe, are based upon love. That's a common denominator here. love for us, wanting us to know certain things. Smelling a fragrance, uh, is very common. Smelling a cologne, a perfume, aftershave, a flower, a food, a personal scent of a baby, that kind of thing. It's many different ones. What's interesting is one person may smell it. And I like to use this as an analogy. Pretend you're in Minnesota, up north. It's middle of the winter. It's nothing but snow and ice around. There are no living plants or flowers anywhere. And you're working in an office, a cubicle in a building. And you're there and you start smelling lilacs in the middle of winter. And you don't say anything to anybody. Somebody walks down the aisle and they start, sort of like a bird dog with the air. And they sniff, and they smell lilacs. And they don't say anything, but a third person comes and a fourth, and they can all share the same fragrance. And generally a fragrance is associated with one person anyway. And but you can have witnesses. In one case, there were 12 people all together smelling the scent of roses. And it was at the funeral. After the funeral, they went back to the home of the little girl's mother. The little girl had died. Went back to her mother's home. 12 of them smelled the scent of roses. And there was a 13th person there who did not. And that was the only one who didn't know the little girl before she died. I had never met her. But all other 12 had, and they all smelled the scent of roses. And these things are, you have to experience them to have the full impact and know how healing these things are. Visual experiences are a huge, wide category, or we made it two categories: partial visual and full visual. Partial visual means you see maybe the head and shoulders from the waist up, from the knees up, or whatever. Or as far as solidity goes, some are just like an outline, others are translucent, transparent, and then absolutely clear. And it just depends on your ability to what you can see and how they can appear to you. What they're trying to let you know, and they can appear, by the way, anywhere. In your bedroom is very common, at the foot of the bed, but it can be in a car, on a boat, on an airplane. The only place we never had one yet that we heard of was on a train, but if we interviewed more people, we'd find one on a train, I'm sure. They will appear to you to the best of their ability, and they're letting you know that they're alive and well, still exist, and they're healed and whole. And this is the most important part, regardless of the form of death, whether someone, I don't want to be gruesome here, but if it's a traffic accident or a fire or an explosion or a battlefield death, I mean, terrible things like that, they will still come back to you, healed and whole, in radiant health, looking fit, often younger and happy and whatnot. And this is, again, to let you know they're okay. Don't worry about them. There are two parts of grief. One is our concern for the one who died, and the other is our sense of loss, our own pain. And it's two different things. But our book is about letting you know that they're okay. And as you know that, you'll start to feel better as well. Also, while you're seeing them, you may or may not have verbal communication with them. Often they'll let you know that they're fine and to just go on with your life because they're healed and whole and they're fine. A vision is a hard thing to describe. It's like seeing a 35mm slide in the air. It's a picture, can be black and white, can be in color, can be seen with your eyes open or with your eyes shut. I saw one with my daughter right here between my so-called third eye in full color. When you see a vision, you're seeing them in their dimension. You're seeing them in the spirit world, the spirit realm, heaven, whichever. And now there are other words for this, but these are the ones I've used. And these are the ones I'm familiar with. So I'm not trying to, I'm sorry, I can't include every religion, but the word afterlife, if you wish, or heaven are the words we use. And a vision may occur while you're meditating or in prayer. And they're just the same as seeing them right in the same room with you. The twilight experience, as it says, it's just as you're falling asleep or just as you're waking up. And often as you're waking up and you're having, quote, a dream about them, you think, when you open your eyes, there they are in the same room with you, right there. And we didn't even know we had that as a category until we went through it with a computer and a certain language kept showing up. And sure enough, that's a different category. ADC experience as well as sleep or sleep state ADCs, visitation dreams. It's a monstrous category because most of us are so busy, it's hard to get through to us during the day. People call us, they have to leave voicemail. They send us emails, we may get back or we may not get back or whatever. It's just hard to get through to people. And you look, and more so, they're tense, they're busy, they're on the go, they can't talk, blah, blah, blah. And so imagine how hard it is to get through to us. But while we're asleep, we're in one place. And these are not like ordinary dreams. A typical dream is fragmented, broken into pieces, it's jumbled, it's filled with symbols and falls apart as soon as we wake up. These experiences that occur while people are asleep, when a deceased loved one visits them then, and you may go off together someplace as well, are so real that they remember them in detail 10, 20, 30 years later. So these are the differences between ordinary dreams and sleep state ADC. And the difference is we're relaxed and they can reach us and they can meet us. Out of body ADCs. This is my favorite category in a way. Some people are able to leave their physical body, and they do when they go with a deceased loved one a short distance in their own home or just a few miles away or anywhere in the physical world. Or in one case, a mother went to the spirit world and she was very concerned, who will take care of my baby? There were no family members or anybody like that to take care of her infant child who died. And she was absolutely distraught. And so she went and she saw that her little infant daughter was being well taken care of by spirit workers on the other side. And that gave her all the comfort that she needed. I mean, yes, of course, she was still missing her daughter. But the way I like to say it is, each of us right here, right now, everybody listening to me, watching me, is a spirit, is a soul wearing a physical body or earth suit. I call it our earth suit, like an astronaut suit. It's in our earth suit. We need to wear this to function at this level of reality and to do all the things that we do. But the thing that dies is our earth suit. It's not the I who I am, the I who each of us is. That is eternal. That was, is, and will be. That continues. That's what who has the near-death experience that goes through the tunnel and then comes back to their body, as an example. So these out-of-body ADCs can be very, very vivid, intense, and real. And some people say visiting the other side, especially, is more real than this physical life itself. And at the flowers in the trees, and you've heard all this in near-death experiences. So this is not a typical audience, but you've read about these the trees, the bushes, the flowers, the lighting, everything in the spirit realm is so much brighter and more intense. Everything gives off its own light, and it's radiant light. Nothing is decaying. You see flowers of colors that we no names for, things like that, and even buildings and other things in nature, and everything's filled with love and peace and joy. Telephone calls. This is not a very big category anymore, but some people would wake up in the middle of the night or whatever when they hear a phone ring, and would be the voice of their deceased loved one, and they'd have one or two-way communication. Okay, you could say, well, you're imagining that, you all fall back to sleep. How about when you're wide awake, you're in the kitchen, maybe you're cooking, cleaning, whatever you're doing. The phone rings, you have a phone on the wall, the old-fashioned kind, and you pick it up and you have a conversation, and gradually your voice just declines and eventually it stops. And then there's no disconnect, no dial tone, no other type of sound. It's like this line has been severed. That's it. But these are a category. And one man wrote a whole book about phone calls from the dead. And that was the one book, parapsychology, that they let go out of print. Well, physical phenomena is a huge category because these are all kinds of signs. And people instinctively know to ask for a sign that their loved one, deceased loved one, continues to exist. So we say, ask a higher power or the universe, whoever, whatever you believe in, your deceased loved one, Mary, Jesus, or somebody else, whatever, Saint Francis, Saint whoever, for help if you need it, or just ask to say, I really need to hear from you, mommy, daddy really needs to hear from you. And this could be a physical sign, such as lights blinking on or off, or lights going on, radios going on and hearing a particular, or stereos going on, playing a particular song, television's going on to a particular program, toys beginning to operate that even have missing parts or don't have batteries, and they start working. I can't explain it, but these are things that people reported to us. So we call that a long list of things that go bump in the night. There's some other symbols, which are the most common ones involve butterflies and rainbows. And our book, well, this is our book, by the way. If you can see, it has a butterfly on the cover. A butterfly is sort of the universal symbol for life after death and things of that nature. And but it's not just seeing a butterfly pass, go past you in your car or something. It's having a butterfly land on you, or land on a casket, or in some way you're outside, maybe in the park, and you see one right in front of you. And if you follow it, it brings you someplace special that feels very peaceful and serene and beautiful. And so it's the behavior of the butterfly. Seeing a rainbow here in Florida, it's quite common, but in other places in this country, it's not that common. Or it may be in an overcast day. I've heard of people looking up at a very dark sky and just see a small opening. And in that opening, there'll be a small rainbow. It's not that, ground to ground, just a small one. And that's their sign. It's also the behavior of birds, especially birds. I think I've heard about 25 different species so far. And these are not just seeing a bird, but having it come near you, maybe sitting next to you on you're in a chair, it's on the dock or something on the ground, or it'll peck on your window repeatedly, or some other kind of behavior that's very, very unusual for a bird to do. And it will remain there 5, 10, 15 minutes and continue doing it. It can be other animals as well, seeing a deer at a certain time or place. Or we have a beautiful story of porpoises accompanying the boat when they bring the boat out to release the ashes in the Gulf of Mexico. And the porpoises swim alongside. As soon as the ashes are released, they disappear again. So this can involve finding coins. We have a fantastically long story of a family. Now, first it was a woman, then it was a woman and her husband, and she told other family members. They all began finding dimes, and they told other family members in other places, and they had hundreds of dimes they'd found in a very small time, not a lifetime, just relatively small time. And each one had a story of when they needed it. It's like you going into the hospital that day for a checkup or something, then you find a dime. It's not just ordinary time, ordinary place. It has a story to it. According to our research, all of these experiences are to provide comfort, reassurance, hope to us, the ones who are still alive, to the parents, spouse, siblings, children, whoever, and other family members and friends. They want us to know they're still alive, they still exist, and that they'll be there when we make our own transition, when we die, when we make our own transition. And they'll be there to meet us and greet us. And that includes our pets. I've had verification of this. Our pets will be there to meet us too. So dogs, cats, I don't know about every pet in the world, but I've heard of the main ones. And some of their verbal messages, and some of these are implied, some are actually stated. They'll say, I'm okay, I'm fine, everything is okay, I'm happy. Don't worry about me, don't grieve for me. They're trying to tell us they're okay. We don't have to be concerned about them. Everything will be all right. And they say, this is the big thing, go on with your life for us. That we can know we'll have reunions with them, joyous reunions when we make our transition, but to continue living our life, especially when there are other children involved to take care of, and people like this. This is the joyful message of this work. I'll be there for you. I'll always be there for you. I'll be watching over you. This is like a guardian angel type of message. Husbands sometimes give it to their wives, this deceased husband to a living wife, or vice versa, or to a child. Doesn't matter who. I'll see you again. I love you, whether it's stated or not. The very fact that they made an effort to come back and do this is a statement of love. They care. They love us. They miss us. Not missing in the sense our heart is torn out, but they care about how we're doing. And so they say, I love you in some cases, in other cases it's implied. And then they say goodbye. Goodbye can be for now, or it could be I'll come again, or it could be that my final communication to you right now will be they won't be coming back again. This is their final visit. It can only come so many times. Now, these are not new. These we have a couple in the book that go back to ancient history and things like that. And of course, the Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, he sees the face of Jacob Marley in his door knocker, things like that. These have been written about in fiction and stuff. Nobody ever took them seriously, I don't think. But there's older accounts. But more recently in America, we psychologists and people like that have called these grief-induced hallucinations, meaning not real. You're fantasizing. How can we get you well? Got to get over this. So when you get over this, you'll be well. And they undo it all. So they call it grief-induced hallucinations based upon wish fulfillment, imagination, magical thinking. That's a good one. Sounds like something from Disney World. Magical thinking, fantasies or memories. And but we provide 6 chapters. Love from Heaven provides 6 chapters of why these are real and not just hallucinations. The first one is this. This just makes common sense. You, wherever you live, right now, the other side of the country, okay, your best friend lives, or somebody close to you lives, or a child, or whoever, somebody you love lives. And tonight they come and visit you. And they come to say, I love you. Thank you for being my, whatever relationship is. I care about you. I'll always admire you. Thank you for being there for me. I love you very much. Goodbye. Wait a minute, why did so-and-so come? And you recognize who it was. Then tomorrow, afterwards, you learn that there was an automobile crash or a fire or some other kind of accident or hospital death or who knows what. That the person was alive as far as you knew, so you had the experience before you ever received the news of the fact that they were even ill. I'm not talking about somebody who's 99 years old and has advanced cancer. I'm talking about somebody who, as far as you knew, was in good health, and then was usually an accident of some kind or something of that nature. And so you had the experience before the news. About years later, you can say, well, okay, 2 or 3 years later, fine. But we have all accounts where people have their experience 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 or more years later. One case right near me, a woman was told to get out of her bedroom by her husband who had died 33 years earlier. And within just a few minutes, a huge part of an oak tree slammed through the roof and demolished that very bedroom. The people's lives are protected and saved by these things too. Okay, evidential ADCs. This is because they reveal something. Some cases you know something exists, but you don't know where it is. It could be a will, it could be any other kind of legal document, it can be photographs, whatever, something of value to you, or it can be physical value in terms of gold coins or who knows what. But you know it's there, but you don't know where they put it, and they'll lead you to find it. So that's evidential. How about when you don't even know it exists? There's a very cute little story about a woman was guided to go upstairs in her house to the bedroom, to a dresser. That was one of the old-fashioned dressers of like 6 different drawers. And at the top right-hand side, pull out the little drawer, little sock drawers or whatever. And not only that, but look underneath the paper. They used to put paper in those things. And underneath, she put her hand there and took out something. It turned out to be a life insurance policy. She didn't even know her husband had never mentioned it. And it wasn't, $100,000, but it was something which helped her at her time that she needed. So there are all kinds of evidential experiences that people have where they're led to find something of value that they didn't even know existed. ADCs for protection in suicide. The ones for protection, if you're ever driving a car or any other vehicle, anything like this, and you're told stop or slow down, listen to it, because this may save your life or the life of other people in your vehicle or the other vehicle. And it need not be a car. It could be something else. You can be on a bicycle. I don't care where you're on or airplane. You can be whatever it is. There's something you're being told to do. Listen to it. It will make a difference. I heard a voice. It's in the book. Go outside and check the swimming pool. And when I did, I'm not going to go through the whole story. I don't have time. When I did, I found out our 2-year-old son was in the deep end of the pool, not moving. Okay, I yelled my wife's name, Judy's name. I ran down the side of the pool and I saw that he was 1 inch under the water, not moving. His eyes were open and he had a small smile on his face. I had been a volunteer fireman. I don't know why I knew this, but I stopped to take my shoes off. I did. I took my shoes off and went into the pool underneath him, pushed him to the side, and Judy came running out and pulled him out by the hand. I didn't know if he was dead or alive, as I say. It happened so quickly, fortunately. He spit up some water. He did not require any CPR. He was fine. I can't explain it. He had come out of a bathroom, which we had a thing in the door even. There was a rubber thing around the doorknob. I don't know how he got that door open, or got from there. He's less than 2 and got out to the pool. He should have been 100% safe, but he did. And that's how he got to the pool. And just go outside and check the swimming pool. When you hear a voice telling you, whatever it tells you, listen to it. It may save a life. It may protect people. And I've known, we have a whole chapter of these. Somebody else looked outside, and it's always indirect, by the way. They don't tell you you're going to be shot or drowned or killed or hit by a car. It just says slow down. It doesn't say why. And so she looked out the window. She saw that the barn in Canada was on fire, and other ones throughout the book. There are about 10 or 15 in every chapter in the book. About 15 of these. So there's another one, because a number of your people are mental health people. They're doctors and psychiatrists, psychologists. We interviewed a whole number of people who were thinking of taking their own life. They were suicidal. They admitted it. They told us. We didn't ask this. This was not part of the questioning. I mean, that's pretty invasive. But they told us they were. And that they said that at just the right time, somebody came to them and visited with them. And it wasn't the words they used. Some didn't use any words, but they visited with them just long enough for them not to take their own life. And 2 of these people were in the act of taking their life, were actually doing it, and they desisted. So what I'm saying is, I've never wanted a psychologist or counselor of any kind to tell a patient, oh, you're just fantasizing that, because that may be their reality that they're holding on to. That's giving them the power to stay alive and not succumb to suicide or something else. And it provides comfort and hope. So that's a very powerful category, I think. And I'd like medical people to study that one far more, because maybe some of the people who have attempted to take their life did have that and ignored it. Others went ahead and followed it. ADCs with a witness. Sometimes 2 or more people at the same time in the same place have the same experience. They both may see the one who has died, or one may see that person and receive a voice, hear their voice. It may be a combination, maybe 2 or 3 or more experiences within one, but it's 2 different people, so it's with a witness. So what I'm saying is these are not subjective, these are objective experiences. So that's why I'm talking about these different categories that are very important as far as the reality of these experiences are concerned. Almost all after-death communication experiences provide comfort, hope, and healing, especially those who are grieving or are afraid of death. Many reduce the intensity of the experiencer's grief. They reduce it to some degree. I don't mean 100%, but they reduce it to some degree. And they shorten the duration of their grief. Again, not completely, although I did meet one person who said their entire grief went with one experience. It depends. Unfortunately, some people react with fear when they have an ADC. This is usually because of the suddenness of the event, or they've never heard of it happening to anybody else, or they think they're going crazy, or because of their church teachings about things like this. It's interesting, when we were doing our research, we received a number of tracts and even a Bible and a Book of Mormon were mailed to us, and we were doing the devil's work. And I'm, oh, geez, I never thought about all this going on. And every now and then, one of these little things would arrive, and long letters. I mean, the amount of time they took to type these things were long, and just before email and all that. And ironically, not received even one since the book came out. This is all of their fears of what the book would say, I guess. But not one of these has ever come since Hello from Heaven was published by us or by Bantam. Some people think they're losing their mind or going crazy. And some people have difficulty reconciling it with their religious beliefs. We believe that after-death communications are a natural and normal part of life, and that they deserve the same attention and interest and research that near-death experiences have already received. These are much more common. These are 5 to 10 times more common than near-death experiences. In other words, I've heard like 4 to 5% of Americans have had an NDE. Well, here's 20% to 40% have had an ADC. I'm not saying that these are not making these less or more than, I'm just saying they're different. But these are very common, and the people are in no normal state of health. We did not interview anybody who admitted to drinking or using drugs when they had their experience. I spoke to every person. I spoke to about 5,000 people before we interviewed them, and ruled many people out for many different reasons and that kind of thing. We believe that after-death communications provide modern-day evidence for life after death. I'd like to say proof, but I don't know what proof is scientifically when it comes to personal testimony. But to me, personally, it is proof. We believe that these are loving, lead us to believe that we will all have loving reunions with our deceased relatives and friends, that they can and do communicate with us now. And the message that they communicate more than any other is that life and love are eternal. So that's said more than I thought I would. What I'm doing now, and you mentioned it earlier, is I'm writing a prequel to Hello from Heaven. In 1974, I had my spiritual awakening, and I received 54 spiritual short stories and other writings. And I've taken those short stories and 2 other writings, and I'm putting them in a book, editing it, and it's called Stories from Heaven. Stories from Heaven, spiritual short stories and other writings received by Bill Guggenheim, prequel to Hello from Heaven. At the end of it are some things I've written myself, since then. I didn't channel those, I received those, as far as I know. I don't, but they're about different topics, mostly about life after death. Because that's, I believe that, you know, they say mankind has two fears. One is public speaking and the other is life after death. Well, I've had both of them. And I revealed the first one when I was at Yale. I was in the Army ROTC class, and I was required to give a 15-minute talk. And I did do it. And that's all I'm going to say for now, but that'll be in the book. But that was my fear of public speaking. So the idea that, by the way, when we began, when we finished our research, no, 1 year after we began our research, I'm sorry, we didn't finish it. We began in 1988. 1989, we were invited to give a workshop. We were invited over to Tampa, which is only 2 hours away, and here in Florida. And it was to the Compassionate Friends, which is the largest self-help group for bereaved parents in the world. And they invited us to be speakers. We had never done that. We hadn't planned on it, but we did it. We had over 300 people in our first workshop. And then the same afternoon, more than 200 people in our second one. That's with knowing about 1/2 or less of what we came to know about these experiences. And we've been to, I think, 15 national TCF conferences since then. So that's pretty much it. I don't know what else I can tell you really about our work. Oh, I can tell you about my experience. You asked me to tell you about an STE of mine. My daughter Janet was 47 years old when she was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and she walked into a Walmart and bought a 38 caliber handgun that day. There was no waiting period and no background check. My daughter had a long history of psychiatric, psychological involvement, I will say. And any kind of check would have revealed it. But she was able to walk out with a gun just like you walk out with a loaf of bread. And she used it on herself 2 hours later. It was not her first suicide attempt. And she was 47. And what had happened was she met a man who convinced her that she could go off all her medications cold turkey, most of which were antidepressants. And somehow he convinced her to do that. And she did it. And she later told her older sister that she thought she might start retaking them, but didn't get that far. I guess that's the reason she did this. I don't know. But she went home and used a gun on herself 2 hours later after buying it. And I'm real angry at the state of New Mexico. I thought of going out there and being a social protester about gun laws, but that's really not my thing to do, frankly. I don't like fighting. And so I didn't. And I heard from her, this was 2011. This was about 4 years later. Here, right on the very computer that I'm on right now, I have a icon for the song, Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. And every now and then I play it because I like it. It's my favorite Beatles song. So I clicked on it. And when I heard it in the past, I used to send sunshine energy to my daughter, Janet. It just inspired me to do that. I always thought she was kind of down and could use energy, pick her up, make her happier, an infusion of energy, whatever you want to call it. And so that was my connection with her. And the song began playing. And then the next thing I knew, at first I had my eyes open, then I shut them. And then right here in front of my third eye, I saw Janet, and she was dancing in a circle, just so in one place. Then later on, she went to dance in a much larger circle. And I don't have all the words in front of me right now, but basically when she was dancing in the big circle, she was saying that she's so much happier now, so much freer now. And the reason is when she was in her physical body, people wouldn't know how to treat her, because if you have a physical disability, like a limb missing or whatever, something obvious, people will respond to that. But if you have an emotional disability, they don't see it. And so you don't get that acceptance, that nurturing or whatever. And that's what she had all her life. She was brilliant. She belonged to Mensa. She was an artist. She wrote children's books. She wrote the books and she illustrated them herself. And she also did advanced mathematics. She was 2 weeks behind some PhD on something to do with quantum something. I don't know what it was anymore, but it was something very cutting edge that this other genius had just come out with. But she came out with the same thing 2 weeks later. So she was a genius in her IQ, but not so much in living. She never got married, never had children, and her relationships were stormy to say the least. But she said she's so much happier now. And previous time I had seen that she is working with children, and she had helping them design things. Think of little kites all kind of tied together, except that in the heaven world, they were able to fly and perform operations and do things, huge number of them, with your mind, not with the wind. And there is no wind, but with your mind, you can make them move, change colors, change positions, change size, all different kinds of things. I've seen her do that. And she was just expressing to me in this particular experience that she was so much just fulfilled and happy to be where she was. And there was initially, yes, I think from what I gathered, there was a place she had to go. It's not a hospital, that's not the right word, but it's just a place you go to if you die by suicide. Not all people, some who die by suicide, sort of rest and I don't want to say a cure, that sounds so European, but it's rest and recreation. And the ones who worked with her and treated her were children, not doctors, not adults. They were all children because they were the most accepting, most loving. And nobody, it wasn't about giving medications or tubes or anything like that. It was just being there. So children were the ones who were helping, in her case, she and others, to adjust and to be okay with everything. And she's much, much happier than any time I've ever known her while she was here. That's my daughter, Janet. And that's a number of years ago. Well, the ADC was not that long ago.
We have 5 minutes, Bill.
I just assume take questions.
All right, if you're ready for questions, we can start questions now.
I pretty much finished. I could read stuff, but you don't need me to read stuff.
All righty then, let's start with the questions. That was absolutely fascinating, Bill. I mean, thank you for your groundbreaking work. It was excellent. If anybody has questions, please, rather than raising your hand, write the question in the chat. And I'll be reading the questions in the chat for Bill. So Bill, we have a question here from Marjorie. She says, she has a comment and a question. She says, several times I've been contacted both while waking and sleeping by persons who've been murdered, which is interesting. And then her second question is, please explain haunting of houses if you can.
I'm afraid it's going to sound like a cop-out, but I don't have any experience with that. Haunted houses. I mean, I've heard things that people used to live there and they can't, that they've died, but they don't know it. Things like that. They're earthbound, spirit-bound. I read things that there are people who know how to do out-of-body rescue work. And I knew a woman who used to do this. She worked at the Monroe Institute. Rosalind McKnight did that. But I don't know anything. That's not part of our research.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry, but
that's fine. We have another question from Shira. If animals show signs from souls that have crossed over, does that mean souls have control over an animal's will? Like a butterfly landing on you or a bird tapping on the window? Or do animals communicate with souls that passed on and are doing favors for them?
I think I'm understanding the question. Is somebody directing the animal to do certain behaviors?
Yeah.
And I think, yes, some people believe that a soul becomes a butterfly or the bird. I personally don't. I personally think that they influence the bird or the butterfly or whatever it is to do certain things. Yes, but again, with love. It's not a master or slave. It's with love and understanding.
Right. Right. Our next question is from Carol. Thank you, Bill. Carol asks, do afterlife people ever cause chaos? On the date of death of my sister, which was by suicide, I had a car accident and totaled my car. This year I had 2 falls and a concussion around the date of her death.
Very sorry to hear that. I don't know whether it's a cause and effect matter or coincidence. I don't know what the cause of that. I've never heard of that either. These are certainly very profound questions, and I'm feeling I'm not helping anybody, but I don't know the answers to anything like that.
Nobody has the answers to everything, but we're asking the questions. Our next question comes from the Doman family. And the question is, can you talk about why you changed your career out of the finance world?
I worked with my then brother-in-law at 2 small firms. And when I left Wall Street, I began doing, I guess you call it social work, because the next thing I did, I worked at a school for autistic and schizophrenic children for 9 months as just a helper. I was there full hours, just like a teacher, but I was not a teacher per se. I was a helper in any way I could. And then I worked at a teenage drug abuse center for a year and a half. And I enjoyed doing that. And it really was just, these are not kids on heavy drugs. This was back in the 70s. And it was running groups with them to teach them how to verbalize their feelings and their thoughts and things of that nature. And I helped one girl by being able for her to be truthful, prevent a man from going to jail for rape, a black man for rape, which would have been very nasty in this case. And for another boy who was going to kill his a drug dealer for he believed that the drug dealer was responsible for his cousin's overdose. And we had we pulled a group together for an hour and a half, and he calmed down sufficiently that he was okay then. I don't know what happened in the long term, but I think it was okay. And I was a volunteer fireman for 3.5 years as well. I loved doing that. And I went to real fires and just reliving one of them. I was alone in a chemical. Want to know what uncertainty is? To be alone with an air pack on your back in a black room where you can't see your hand in front of your face, and it's loaded with chemicals, drums, 50-gallon drums of chemicals, and you have no idea what's in those, whether they're explosive or not, and nobody else knows. Your job is to find a door, to open that door, to ventilate the room so they can put out the fire. But crawling on the concrete floor under that condition was not exactly what I thought of. I mean, it was my job as a volunteer, but that was my riskiest moment of my life, as far as I knew.
Thank you, Bill. Our next question is from Joshua, and he asks, in your experience, do murder victims feel sad, regret, or gypped out of life? Or are they happy where they are, accepting the new circumstances? So murder victims.
Some people we interviewed had experiences of people who had been murdered. Pretty much what we found is that these kinds of questions about the unusual behavior or expectation of unusual behavior would be much more pronounced than it really was. People who died acclimated to having died and to their new life, and were not nearly as concerned with the circumstances of their old life as we might suppose. That's a very good way to put it, frankly. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They like the other side.
Yeah, and they let it go. A lot of things happen here that we all, even in a good life, we rather not have happen. But they're not hanging out with that anger or that bitterness or that jealousy or that, all these human emotions that we suppose they do. They get their people to help them, I suppose, to get past that.
Thank you. Next question is from Dina, who asks, do some souls of the dead visit a person to apologize for the wrongs that they did while alive to that particular relative or person?
Yes. Occasionally they do. They'll come to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. So we don't have a lot of those, but there were a few where we were also involving forgiveness. Forgiveness has been the topic of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People who seem to be a little bit more enlightened than here. And so they were willing to forgive for things that they were not willing to forgive on this side.
Yes, that's been my experience too. Monique has another question. How is it that an STE can affect us in such a profound and life-changing way, and we think we will forever be in the awestruck and overwhelmed state, but yet the feeling of the experience slowly fades away? How is this possible? It almost feels like there is a veil that dilutes what has changed our perception of reality without ever completely forgetting, as to heal the disorientation of the experience so we can move forward in this life.
That's an STE. That's more your question than mine.
Well, how about with after-death communications? Do they fade with time so people can move on with this life?
I don't understand the meaning of that. The one who has the experience of having somebody they love die, yes, the sharp pangs of it aren't as much 20 years later, 10 years later, usually, very often. Although very honestly, my own grandmother, my father died of congenital heart disease when he was only 39 years old. And she was driven to the cemetery 20 miles each way once a week for the next 10 or more years of her life. She never got over it. That was her only child. And that she just grieved and grieved and grieved. I don't know if that's what your question means. Sure.
Thank you, Bill. Our next question is from Tara. And she says, I have many dreams where relatives who have passed are part of them. Nothing special, just regular dreams where we're spending time together. I was wondering why they visit that often. Not every day, but quite often.
I don't know if those are ADCs or ordinary dreams or a combination of both. I'm going to guess it's a combination of both. And that, where there's love, the bonds of love, those don't get broken with death. They continue. So somebody may come back to just visit from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have lots of questions, so we'll keep going, Bill. Thank you. Next question is from Marjorie. She says, please clarify about persons who've been murdered. They want to contact their loved ones, but I don't know how and to report them missing to authorities, but I need more information. Tell me more about this kind of after-death communication with people who've been murdered.
I've never heard such a list of dreary questions. I don't know. I mean, why is this one person having so many people who've been murdered contact them? Must I have a calling to become a medium of some kind or a specialist in helping people who died? Maybe that if one person's having a lot of those types of experiences, I would have them sit down in some way spiritually and find out what their mission is, because it may be to help the families of those who've been murdered. Something like that. It sounds like a field of work.
Interesting perspective. Thank you, Bill. Anne asks, we got lots of questions here, Bill. Anne asks, when you talk about seeing things with your third eye, is that like when I close my eyes right before I go to sleep and see like a dark screen with images happening on it?
Could be. I don't know. I can't speak of what you see versus what I see. Yes, it's a chakra. It's a sixth chakra right here. Yes, right between the eyes, and I guess so.
Okay, our next, we have many more. I'm skipping the comments and going on to the questions. Thank you, Bill. This one's from Patricia, who says, I've had communication with someone famous that I did not know. What do you know about contact from someone you might have known in a past life?
Oh boy. I've heard of people occasionally having been contacted by a famous person who died, like once. Ongoing? No, I haven't heard of that.
Okay.
And that's more like a celebrity type person. I'm familiar with, not a historical person.
All righty. So actually, we
except
have
once. Well, I can give. Okay. People want something unusual. I once spoke to a woman about. There was a serial murderer in Florida named Ted Bundy, who murdered quite a few people. And this woman, for some crazy reason, because I did run into a few people I thought were a little different during the research, she wanted to contact with him. And she kept trying to maintain contact, having him, she wanted him to contact her in some way. And then when something began happening, and it felt like a mountain of slime was moving slowly towards her. A mountain of slime. And I said to her, I think maybe you'd like to give up your idea of Ted Bundy contacting you. Because that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know what you did.
Anyway,
Yes,
believe it or not, we have made it to the end of the questions. So do you have any closing remark you'd like to say, Bill?
Just once again, if you'd like my handout, 4-page handout, to put up my email address.
We've entered it in the chat. If you could just say your email address for everyone.
It's a Bill, B-I-L-L-G, or Guggenheim, Bill G, 934 at hotmail.com. Bill G 934 at hotmail.com. So if you send me an email, I'll send you a copy of the 4-page handout, which probably says it better than I did, but it's very clear and it's well written. I know that much.
Well, thank you, Bill. This was a really awesome presentation, and thank you for your groundbreaking work on after-death communications. And once again, congratulations on being inducted into the Spiritual Awakening Circle of Honor. So thank you for all that you've done in this field.